we started seeing these very fast moving lights all over the property. And it was at night. These fast moving lights were anywhere from white to blue to purple. And sometimes they would make noise. And the noise that they made was, it reminded me very much of like a 1980s cordless telephone, that real high pitched trilling noise.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
That's what it reminded me of.
There is nothing wrong with your podcast streaming service. We now control your device. This is not a test. This is Podcast of the Paranormal. Close your curtains and stay away from your windows. Lock your doors, turn off your lights. Get your snacks and drinks ready. Get to your basement or attic. The podcast is about to begin.
Hello, everyone. It is Gabrielle, and we have a really fun interview for you today. We are here with Colleen Coffman. She is an author, paranormal investigator, and special effects makeup artist. Colleen, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the field of the paranormal.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to. Hi, Gabrielle. Okay, so I have been in the paranormal my entire life. I was born that way. I've probably forgotten more paranormal situations and experiences in my life than most people have had. So that's kind of where I'm at with the paranormal. I have been into special effect makeup and practical effects and makeup and hair and wigs and all those kind of things since about, the mid to late 90s. So a long time.
Oh, that's really fun.
It has been a blast. I've been in film and I've been in theater both. So when I got into theater, I kind of nicknamed her the evil twin sister to film. But I grew to love both of them very, very much. I have since retired or semi-retired in the last few years just because, well, to be honest about it, COVID was not very nice to me and it wasn't very nice to my career either.
Yeah, I feel like that's an industry that really took a hit with the pandemic.
It sure did.
I got lucky, I think. I was able to sort of pivot and work from home.
That's fantastic. And that's kind of, I've just changed gears, and that's kind of why I focus more on the writing things. And I've been writing a lot and doing a lot of artwork, and I specialize also in airbrush. So I have been doing a lot of just artwork, some airbrushing this and that and the other thing and that type of thing, and focusing on my paranormal investigations. And that's been me for the last few years.
Yeah.
So your artwork, is that like pre-production stuff, or is that completely separate from your professional career?
No, I have done some drawings like storyboards and those types of things for film, but for me and for other people, I do portraits and sketches and flash for tattoos and jackets and shirts and murals. And right now I have 3 Magic the Gathering card boxes that I'm painting custom for their owners.
That's awesome.
So just a variety of stuff.
Yeah, that's really cool.
There you go, Gabrielle. Your next tattoo, what do you think? You could commission something?
There you go. Absolutely.
That's awesome. So tell us about your artwork. What's the meat and potatoes of the artwork? What do you focus on?
Boy, I'm all over the place. I get bored and mundane way too easily. So I have lots and lots of different skills that I hop around from one to the other. I have a project right now that I'm going to be doing a bunch of sculpting, which is probably one of my favorite things to do. And like I said, I've got some airbrushing that I'm focusing on this week. So, and then I have books that I'm working on, some of which include artwork that I'm working into it, and some of which do not. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Do you do full art books?
What I have been doing is like the book that I have published right now is called The Adventures of a Sketch Diary. And it's kind of a special thing. If you'd like to hear the story of it, I will be happy to share.
Yes, I would love to hear the story.
Okay, so this is kind of a crazy thing. Things happen for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So I have, like I said before, I have a lot of different types of paranormal experiences in my life. It's just kind of who I am. It's how I've always been. And about the year, I don't know, I guess it was probably in the early 90s, My then husband and I were taking care of some property in Missouri for an older couple. It was 54, 55 acres. There was some woodland and there was a pond and a couple of barns and some pasture and some horses that they were renting space to. And we would go up there and take care of that place. Well, we started seeing some pretty crazy things. Lights in the bushes and ginormous, what they call fairy circles or fairy rings, which is like big old mushrooms in a big circle. And so, you're not supposed to step in those because the fairies will cart you away. But we started seeing all these crazy lights and all these weird things on that property, and I started drawing them. My mom and dad got me this really wonderful little sketch pad, and at the time, I was traveling all over the United States doing all types of airbrush face painting and special effect makeup and body painting and that type of thing. So I took that with me and I drew things that I saw and encountered along the way. And then in 2012, I ended up going through a separation and a divorce and several different moves. My storage unit was burglarized and I lost a whole bunch of stuff there. And it was an insane time. And during the course of all of that, I ended up missing my sketch diary. It just disappeared. So I assumed that it was burglarized or lost in one of the moves or something. It was gone. That was in 2014 when I figured out that it was missing. Then fast forward to 2020. I was at the time working for the Kansas City Ballet, which was such a great experience. I love those people. But I was working for them and we had all been laid off because of COVID. And my boss went out of town to see her parents. So I went over to her house to keep an eye on her house and her pets. And I was sitting in the backyard one night watching all the fireflies and the dogs running around chasing these fireflies. It was so cool. And I was thinking at the time, I was like, God, I wish I had my sketch diary again. And I wish that, I still had these experiences in the barn. I wish I could still go up there and watch all the pretty lights. And I was just reminiscing. Well, the very next day, I got a Facebook message from a young man who said, "Hi, I have your sketch diary, and I was just wondering if you'd like it back."
Oh, wow.
6 years after I noticed that it was gone.
And what do you think about the timing of that, too?
I thought that it was serendipitous. Serendipity is one of my favorite words, and it was all over this situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would use another word, synchronicity, I think. When you start to get in your head and you're like reminiscing and you're like going back to that, oh, really, I wish this would show back up. I wish I had my book again. And then suddenly someone contacts you.
Yep, and he did. So I went over and I picked it up and I cried and I hugged him and I thanked him and I brought it home, finished it out because, of course, there were sketches in there that were incomplete. And I wanted to write, some stuff to go with them, some descriptions and storylines and those types of things. And so I did. And about the time I finished it, my publisher just kind of fell into my lap. They loved the book right off the bat, and they published it for me. So that's kind of the story of the sketch diary.
That's amazing.
I feel like 2020, around that time, was a very good time.
It was.
For people getting into this sort of stuff. You know what I mean? Kind of like the weird and artwork and all that, because everybody's sitting at home and people needed an outlet, right?
Absolutely.
So I have quite a few questions now with that little bit of an introduction there.
Sure. Shoot away, man.
First of all, the lights that you saw in the woods. I want to know about those.
Okay, so the very first time that we encountered the lights, it was such an insane time. My ex-husband was a mechanic. He was also a hoarder. But he didn't hoard like knickknacks and paper bags and things like that. No. No, he hoarded full cars and transmission motors and things like that. Well, he had 50 some odd cars that he had at this barn, right? And somebody started vandalizing them.
Oh, wow.
So he and I would go out at various times of the night and the day and walk that humongous piece of property trying to catch who was vandalizing the cars. which we finally did. We finally found them. We finally caught them. And they were a bunch of little boys. They were 11, 12 years old and whose parents never took any responsibility, blah, blah, blah. That's another story. But while we were out walking one night and it was after dark, it was just after dusk, really. We got to the very back fence line. We stopped for a break. And there was a bush in the fence line, had grown up through the fence line. It was a barbed wire fence.
Mhm.
And this bush, I noticed while we were standing there, had what looked to me like, and it was about the same size too, as glowing cigar cherries inside of the bush. And so we get to looking, and the more we looked, the more we found. But we couldn't figure out what they were. There was no physical attachment. There was no berry. There was no fungus. There was no node on the plant itself. We couldn't figure out exactly what was glowing. So we took notes, and the next day when we came up during the daylight, we beelined to that bush to see if we could figure out what it was that we were looking at. On our way back there, we found the biggest fairy ring that I have ever seen in my life. That thing was probably 50 feet across. It was
Oh my
huge.
God.
Wow.
And some of the mushrooms in that fairy ring were probably bigger than a dinner plate. They were humongous. But we got to the bush and we found nothing. There was nothing. There was no fungus. There were no berries. There were no bugs. There was nothing. And they were just, like I said, about the size of a cigar cherry and about that same color. They were kind of an orange color. So that was our first experience.
And you saw these during the day?
No, we saw these at night. These were at night.
Gabrielle's across from me shaking her head. She's like, you need to pay attention and listen.
We did have a lot of experiences up there during the day, but most of the lights that we saw were dusk and after.
Yeah, no, that's why I was asking, because we have experienced something similar, and obviously it's always at night because they self-illuminate. Would you say that's what it was? They self-illuminate?
Absolutely. Yes.
Now, does the light spread through the plant?
I don't know. I don't know if it was something to do with the plant, lighting up, or if it was individual presences inside of the bush. I do not know. That was the first and only time that I've ever seen that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's super interesting to me.
Like right place, right time.
Then we started seeing these very fast-moving lights all over the property. And it was at night. These fast-moving lights were anywhere from white to blue to purple. And sometimes they would make noise. And the noise that they made was, it reminded me very much of like a 1980s cordless telephone, that real high-pitched trilling noise.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what it reminded me of.
Wow, that's super interesting.
Yeah.
Especially the sound. Generally, when people talk about these lights in the woods, there's not always a sound associated with them. Sometimes people get interference on recording equipment, but the fact that you were hearing something, that's a little different.
Yes. And it wasn't just me and my ex either. It was my kids and people we would take up there who had absolutely no paranormal experience in their lives. And they would experience things in that general area. The same thing. And they didn't often see the colors of the lights. Usually the people who weren't used to seeing things like that, they were white lights and they were moving fast, but they also heard noises. And there was the blatting of like a sheep or a goat also.
Oh, that's weird. That
Yep.
is
And the
super
longer we
strange.
stayed up there and the more into it we got, the more variety we also noticed.
Oh, that's interesting. Like different colored lights?
Different colored lights, different sounds, different pitches
Oh, wow.
in the sounds. It was cool.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Now, I have to ask, were the lights ever accompanied by any sort of shadow entity?
The only shadow entity that I experienced up there was kind of at the end of our experience with the barn. And that was my ex happened to leave me. We had a place up there that we had a fire pit. So I was tending to the fire and he had to go over to the other barn, which was 100 yards away or more. And so he took the car and went over there and I was by myself and there was definitely a shadow figure around us. You could just, it was very uncomfortable. and very shadowy. And I was really glad whenever he came back, we put the fire out and went home.
Would you say it was pacing around you or sort of following you?
It was more like pacing back and forth against one of the fence lines.
Mm.
But it was stalking me. It was definitely aimed at me with bad intent.
So what makes you say that? Is there anything descriptive you could come up with that makes you feel that it was like negative, that it wanted something from you or that it was after you?
Well, yeah. It was totally the fear that I was feeling, you know? It was the goosebumps went up, and I started feeling really, really uncomfortable, and the fear started looming, and I could feel it in my spine, like in the root of my spine. It was not comfortable. That's not the way the entities up there typically made you feel. They made you feel like a little kid wanting to go, frolic through the flowers with them.
Okay, yeah. So it's a difference between what you've experienced that made you feel that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Huh. That's super interesting. Did it feel like it was trying to force you to leave? Like it wanted you to leave, and it was being very.
Yep. It was definitely foreboding was the right word.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a similar experience. We had a shadow entity that we came across, and all three of us that witnessed it immediately got the feeling of, hey, we need to go, like right now. We all got in our cars and left. And
Yep.
yeah, it kind of sounds like that.
So shadow entities intrigue me because I think that there's many different types.
Yeah.
And I really feel like they are the eaters of emotion. So getting you to be afraid is actually their breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
That is an interesting idea.
Yeah, I think there could be some that would feed on your emotion. Yeah, depending on where they've been created from.
Yep, absolutely. So that's kind of my thought on that. But, there are a lot of entities and energies out there that encourage you to be afraid or angry or jealous or, all the negative emotions, because, again, that's what they have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Shadow figures are only one of those types.
Yeah.
And I also feel like shadow figures are, they come in different varieties, that there's more than one kind out there, although I just really don't have a clue what those are.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely a number of types of shadow entities.
Yeah, I mean, ours, again, I didn't immediately.
Time to go.
After that, we haven't encountered it again. We still feel its presence, and we feel like, when it's time to go, it's going to let us know. But I think there's a lot more going on in that spot than just that one entity.
Yeah.
I've been to places like that before where there is a variety. My biggest experience with that type of variety would have been at the I worked at commercial haunted houses.
Oh, cool.
So you come pay us and we will scare you. That's what we did. And it was a blast. I loved working there. But something to keep in mind is that commercial haunted houses are actually really very haunted.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I feel too like you're getting into that same idea where you're like feeding it that fear, that anxiety.
Yes.
And of course, any kind of thought form that's going to be created there would want to feed on that.
There were so many different types of thought forms there, so many different types. And of course, people would come through there and they would work there, and not everybody who worked there was a nice person. And so they would ritualize some of that energy as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, definitely.
Now, have you ever investigated a haunted house?
A lot of them. Yes, a lot of them.
I should specify, not an actual haunted house, but like a commercial property where you run a seasonal haunted house, because that's something we've been interested in.
Oh, sure. Yep.
For a while now, because we have quite a few in our area.
Yeah.
And it would just be neat to go and investigate these places and see what people kind of left behind there, see what they created.
So let me give you a little bit of something to work with there, because I worked in those places from about 2001 to 2018. So I had a very, very decent handle on what was going on in those particular buildings. And they are the biggest haunts. Some of them are some of the oldest and biggest haunts in the world. But if you guys want to go and investigate that type of energy going on, I would strongly suggest that you do it during the day, during their season. And the closer to Halloween you can get, the better, because that energy has really ramped up.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I know that the places that I was working, I was setting them up with, and I don't know if they ever did this or not because I haven't been back there, but I was setting them up with escape rooms that were paranormal investigations.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
That's an interesting idea. Yeah.
It was really a lot of fun and I had a ball doing it, but it was also, I hesitate to charge people money to come and see ghosts because in my opinion, that's like kind of mean.
We went to a place that made us feel like that too. And they were talking about like, oh, don't say certain things to this ghost and don't say certain things to that ghost, or this ghost will shut the whole place down, or we don't want our ghost to leave. And it kind of feels like you're keeping a paranormal zoo.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's kind of a slavery situation, isn't it?
That's what it seems like. But again, like you don't know for sure if these are actual entities hanging around there, if it's something left over, you know what I mean? But just the fact that they want to keep them there, it just...
Yeah, and they had a rule like, don't do anything that could help them cross over. They like it here.
Yeah.
Like it was odd.
I wouldn't want their karma, I'll tell you that right now. My sister put it very well. We were doing an investigation several years back, and the lady had us come back out to do a clearing as well. So we did the investigation. We got a lot of really great stuff out of that investigation. And then when we went back, a couple months later, she wanted us to clear them, except she only wanted us to clear the bad ones. She wanted to keep the good ones.
Oh, my goodness.
Right? And my sister, well, she was charging people to tour it.
Yeah.
And so my sister looked at her and she said, honey, ghosts are not pets.
Right.
And it's been our tagline pretty much ever since.
Yeah, it's true.
It is.
I get a kick out of the people that are, they think that they're being haunted by family members or past close friends.
Oh, well, now I have absolutely had experience with loved ones who have crossed over, one of which was haunting my son's house.
Oh, wow. And not saying I don't believe that, but when people are like, hey, I think, Aunt Margaret is here and, I kind of want her gone. Well, did you have a good relationship with Aunt Margaret? Oh, yeah, we were best friends. Well, then why do you want her gone?
Well, you want her gone because she's probably here to help you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about that for just a second, because in my experience and in my beliefs, and of course I'm open to change and learning, but in my experience with ghosts and spirits are the ones who pass and then go on to the next lesson or the next plane or whatever it is we do when we pass. Ghosts are the ones who don't want to go on, and they all have their own reasons for that, and they stick around. And the more they stick around on this plane, the angrier they get and the more forgetful they get.
Yeah, I've heard that theory before. It's interesting because another theory goes that people are, when they pass on, a portion of them moves on and something stays behind. A fraction of them stays behind.
Well, and then you have also like the residual hauntings. Right. And that's like when something was so emotionally moving and strong that emotion sticks.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily a personality, it's an experience.
So I have a question. Going back to your fairy lights, is that what we're calling them? I don't know. I don't know why I called them that, but the lights in the woods, right?
Yes.
Was there a running body of water in close proximity?
There was no running body of water, but there was a small pond that was usually full. I think I only saw it low maybe once in all the years we were there.
Yeah, I mean, that's water. That counts. Huh. How about geographically? Anything interesting in the area? Lithium deposits or quartz or...
There was, and I don't know if this had anything to do with it or not, but there was a military base just right across the fence line that was supposed to be shut down, and I don't think it ever did.
Yeah, that's ticking a box.
I don't know if there was any quartz or anything like that in the general area. Not that I'm aware of.
Any geological activity like earthquakes or...
Oh, no. We're talking right in the middle of, like, on the outskirts of Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay.
So, no, not really. No.
Mainly plains then, flatland and...
Yep.
Huh.
Yep.
That's interesting.
Yeah, just the pond that I'm aware of. I have no idea. And if I had the money, they want like $2 million for that piece of property.
Oh, wow.
I know it's ridiculous. That woman just is just not thinking right. If she really wants to sell it anyways, if I had the money, I would buy that property and I would love it a lot. But it's been parceled off and abandoned really for a very, very long time, for decades now.
So you've mentioned that you have been drawing entities and that it's helped you in ways to like ease tensions, to clear negative energy.
Oh, sure.
Can you kind of elaborate on how your artistic process interacts with your paranormal experiences?
Wow, that's really diverse. Okay, so I have had a number of really negative entities come to me and just want to be drawn. When I agree to draw them, and it's under stipulations, you have to mind your manners. You have to be good while you're here. You don't mess with anybody while you're here. You don't do anything nasty while you're here. As soon as I'm done drawing, you go on your way.
Yeah, setting boundaries, that's good, yeah.
Yeah, those are all the rules. And they've all followed those rules nicely.
Perfect.
Yeah, I have had only one that I had to draw the line and say, no, not you, and not today, and probably never. And that was because she came in through another direction rather than just coming to me and saying, hey, would you mind doing this? No, that was not it. So strange story for you. Again, I was house sitting for a friend and I was watching a horror movie. I mean, I am a special effect artist. I've done practical effects. I've done lots of monsters and lots of murder scenes in films for a long time.
Awesome.
And so watching horror movies is not a big deal to me. It's like from September through November. That's usually what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Or all year for Gabrielle, right?
Love
Yeah.
the horror movies.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's a little bit different. My perspective has changed a bit. And the reason that it changed was because I was house sitting for these people. I had a horror movie on, and it's one that I have seen many times. It is part of a gigantic franchise nowadays. And then I noticed that the big bad chick in this movie was suddenly in my house. And I thought that was going on. I mean, there were lots of negative things going on. And then we started seeing her. And my husband started seeing her. And my husband is not a guy that typically sees things like that. So it took me about 6 months to get her out of my house and out of my life.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting because I don't necessarily believe that was maybe the true form of the entity, but it kind of like stepped into those shoes to say, oh, well, this is something familiar to you.
Right.
That's what I'm gonna present myself as.
And she did. And it took me a long, hard time to get her out of my life. And then it was, I don't know, a couple years after that, I guess. I got stuck in Utah because Delta Airlines was really in a bad way around Christmas time. And I ended up with a couple extra weeks with my son and his family out in Utah. And during this, I was a little bored and I don't know what possessed me, but I typed in a search that said, my house is haunted after watching a horror movie. And I was really very shocked and surprised to see that I was not alone in the least with the very same movie and the very same franchise with people who were experiencing the same thing.
So you have done, right? You've talked about like doing your drawings and like you're drawing some of the figures that you're seeing.
Yes,
Have you ever tried automatic writing?
absolutely, for sure.
How has that worked for you?
So, it worked great. It's been a long time since I've done it, but I guess that's not true either, because the truth of the matter is whenever I do a lot of writing, sometimes I have messages come through in my writing, or sometimes my mother is so wonderful about this. She had a great sense of humor and she was excellent with English and writing. And so every now and then I hear her voice come through and, with a writing suggestion. So yeah, I've done automatic writing. I've done automatic writing and drawing both.
Yeah, that's interesting. I felt like you would be a really good person to do automatic writing because you have like that artistic side.
She has the creative framework. Yeah, absolutely. Well, just to backtrack just a little bit, going back to this entity that you Googled and other people were seeing this.
Yep.
It's interesting because when you think about haunted locations and how people sometimes keep seeing the same thing over and over again, whether they know or not the history of that location,
Yes.
a lot of those entities, sometimes there's no history on them.
Yes.
So it's people that are going there over and over and over again, and they're seeing this, and then it's like almost like everybody is collectively deciding what is there, and they're putting that energy into it. And I think it's kind of like the same thing that's going on with said movies.
That's an interesting concept. I think that's very possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's mass distributed. You're putting these movies in everybody's household, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Millions of people watching.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like opening a portal into everybody's home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is different though, because when you're watching a movie, that's a visual that's visual art. Now you're putting form to these entities, right? So now you're saying this is what it looks like. And yeah, like I said, I think a lot of these entities, we don't know what they are. You know what I mean? Are they ghosts? Are they spirits? Are they fae? Are they something else? Are they extraterrestrials? Are they ultra-terrestrials, right?
Dimensionals. Yes.
Yeah. So you have no idea what these things are. And if they want,
that's right.
If they want attention or they want to communicate with you, I think they're just happy to sort of slip into those shoes of what you're willing to accept as, reality ?
Yeah.
That's very possible. That makes a lot of sense.
That's an interesting way to look at it. Like, ooh, you see me, you'll interact with me.
But it's like mass hypnosis almost, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All these people, you have millions of people watching these movies over and over and over again worldwide. And it's just, you're creating those.
And the weird thing about that particular movie is that I had seen it countless times before.
Right.
It never affected me that way like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So anyway, how did this progress?
I tried several different things to try and get it out of my house because that's just not a fun thing to live with. And I was falling short, man. And then one evening, my sister and brother-in-law and I went out to a graveyard that we had been to many different times, and it was just a peaceful place.
Mm-hmm.
And on this particular night, it was not peaceful. And my sister looked at me and she said, "What have you got with you?"
Oh, wow.
Right. And I was like, "Oh, I know what that is." And so between her and I, we did some protective things and we sent her packing. So it kind of took my sister and I to send her on her way. And every now and then she pokes her nose back in and I smack it. But I also, I feel for people who've had this happen to them. I know that I have experience in this field. And that I am aware that I can get rid of these things and how to go about that. And it was a struggle for me. But I feel for people who don't have any experience in getting rid of things like that and what they must be going through.
Well, I could tell you, we don't have any experience of any sort of attachment or I don't think we've ever really had any negative entities.
No.
That's a good thing.
But I'm trying to keep an open mind here and try to approach it in a different way. Most people, they approach it in the way that it's presented on TV. Everything's a demon, everything, hauntings are bad, this and that,
I was going to say, and that's not it either. I mean, the truth of the matter is that I have run across some really ugly, nasty, mean, awful energies in my life. And maybe 0.001% of them were demonic. They were usually some type of a dimensional being, or they were a really pissed off spirit.
Yeah. And that's the thing, too, people don't always take into account. Like, if you were a nasty person in life, you're going to be a nasty person in the afterlife.
That's right.
Yep. And again, when you no longer have a physical body, can you present yourself in a way that's different than how you were in life?
Absolutely.
You might have been a miserable pushover in life, but then you decide, hey, I'm going to be a big, scary shadow monster when you pass.
Yeah.
Yep, and I'm going to be mean.
Yeah.
It's all hypothetical. We don't know how any of this works. We're never going to, but...
No, I don't know how any of this works, but you guys have experiences, those count. I have experiences, those count.
Right.
Yeah.
And they help us to get through the rest of it on down the road.
You have mentioned that you encounter entities that match descriptions from various mythologies and religions. How do you reconcile those diverse supernatural experiences with your personal spiritual beliefs?
You know what? I am subject to change those beliefs at any point in time. I have my basis. My basis is that, love is the deal. There's no greater weapon in this universe than love. It's what we come from, it's what we go to. That's my foundation. And I believe in a great creator as well. Everything beyond that is negotiable. I'm trying to learn, and I know I don't know it all. The more I learn, the more I know I don't know anything.
Oh, it's impossible. It's like a great mystery how all this stuff works. It's nearly impossible to understand. It's all experience based. That's it, is what I'm trying to say.
I don't think anybody is capable of understanding it all. We're human beings inside of a human body or outside of a human body. We have a human body. So we're here for that third dimensional experience.
Yeah. I like to use the example of Bigfoot. People all over the world have experienced Bigfoot for, thousands of years.
Yes, I have.
We're never going to find one. You have? You've had a Bigfoot experience?
I have. I have what I believe that they were Bigfoot experiences, yes.
Let's hear about it.
Yeah.
Give us one or two.
Absolutely. So all of the experience, no, all but one. I've had an experience in the last year that I think was probably Bigfoot, where we just moved to. So my grandfather owned a lot of land down in South Central Missouri. And we would go down there a lot. He called it his rancho. It was pretty cute. It was like 40 some odd acres of mostly timber, but he had a farmhouse and he had a smokehouse and he had a barn and, an orchard and a field and blah, blah, blah. Some livestock, not a lot, some cattle. Like I think there were 3 cows and 3 goats and a couple of pigs and a dog and a cat and, just that kind of thing. And we would go down there a lot. The house was haunted for one, but it was an old farmhouse. You expected it to be haunted,
Right.
But we decided I think I was probably 16. It was me and my little sister, my little brother, and my boyfriend at the time decided to go down there and camp. Well, we got there. It was just, I don't know, just a little before dark. So we went out and set up our camp just inside the wood line. And we were cutting down sprouts and putting up our tent and putting up a fire pit and all of these good things. And the bugs were so loud that we were literally yelling at each other in order to be heard like 3 feet apart,
Yeah.
We got everything put together and then we decided to hop into the tent and maybe smoke a little something. And when we were done, all of a sudden it got so quiet.
That's a warning sign. When the woods go quiet, pay attention.
Yeah, watch for Grandpa because you don't want him to catch you doing this. It got super quiet. I mean, just like all of a sudden. And it was so shocking to all of us that we're looking at each other and our eyes are bulging out. It's dark by this time. And we have a fire going outside the tent. But it got so quiet. And then we hear something big walking on 2 legs up through the grass and the leaf litter and just the woods, walking straight up behind the tent. We were terrified. We had no weapons. We had no way to protect ourselves. My first thought really was the neighbor. His name was Les, and he was kind of a creep. So my first thought was that Les was going to bug us. He saw our fire through the woods and he was going to come give us a hard time. Well, we heard him walk up behind the tent and then it went quiet again.
Oh, wow.
And there was nothing further. So my boyfriend at the time grabbed up the only thing we had, which was a pump action BB gun. And he pumped it up and he went flying out that tent, prepare to die. And there was nothing there. And then there was this little, I would call it was probably about the size of a ping pong ball, maybe just a little bit bigger. This little white lighted orb came flying through our tent.
I was going to ask if there was any light anomalies associated with that experience.
Yes, there were. And a smell. There was also a smell.
That was my next question.
Yep. It stunk. It smelled like, it's hard to describe, but it smelled to me like a combination of rotten gasoline.
Oh, wow.
like garlic or sulfur or something along those lines.
Okay, that checks. Almost like a death smell or like a bog smell.
A boggy smell, yes.
I've heard people describe it as wet dog and citrus mixed together. So
Okay. Yeah, this smelled like the only thing I can ever akin it to was like rotten gasoline and like garlic. It was a very, very pungent, very odd smell. And it was strong.
now I don't know if you put this together, but one experience you're talking about the shadow entity on, I believe it was on the fence line. I don't know if you
Yep.
put this together that you were also kind of like on the border of the woods there with your Bigfoot experience.
Oh.
So they're both at boundaries. You know, a fence line would be a boundary, a rock wall would be a boundary, a field where it connects to the woods,
Yep.
would be a boundary. So
Yeah, we were like 10 feet inside the wood line because we were brave teenagers,
Yeah.
very interesting detail, that I picked up on.
That is really interesting. I hadn't thought about that. Thank you, Jody. We did have other experiences on that property that I think were also Bigfoot related. I never saw him, but there were times when you went in those woods that it was okay, and there were times you went into those woods and it was not okay.
Any sounds with those experiences?
Yes, wood knocking. And I didn't realize that's what it was until just a few years ago. I mean, we're talking about me as a child and a teenager, And I had to go back and ask my dad before he passed, and then my siblings also. It was like, do you guys remember like hearing somebody chopping wood? Oh, yeah, I remember that. Well, we all assumed it was a neighbor, even though there really wasn't a neighbor for a half a mile or more.
Yeah, that's super interesting. You're ticking all the boxes, like I said. So
Yeah, that's what it took me until I was in my 40s to figure out what that probably was.
So you said you never saw him. You never saw what was causing the noise or the smell
Nope.
or anything like that. So what are your thoughts on, let's call that experience a Bigfoot experience, okay?
Maybe. Okay.
What do you think Bigfoot is based off those experiences?
So, based off of those experiences and the my older, wiser mind, I really feel like they are some type of dimensional being, really.
Yeah, we agree. We're there too.
We're kicking that around between definitely not flesh and blood, or not in the sense that we know of, unless it's they're phasing in and out of realities.
Yes, that's exactly what I think is going on. I think they come and go.
Yeah, it makes sense because people have, they report these big hulking creatures, in forests or wherever. Not even just in forests. Like people see these things in the middle of towns. Like we're
Yes.
from Pennsylvania, so Gettysburg.
Oh, yeah.
There was in the 1920s, I believe it was, a Bigfoot walked right through the town, right through the center of town, and I believe they called it an ape, and that it's
Yeah, it's called the Gettysburg Gorilla.
I've never heard of that. I'm going to have to go look at that.
yeah, that's an interesting story. They said that it escaped a circus or whatever, but there were no circuses in town at the
No.
time, so. Yeah.
Well, they had to say something,
Right.
yeah. You got to explain it away, like one way or another. Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're kind of with you there. We think it's something that's not flesh and blood, and it's not an ape. It doesn't make sense to be an ape in the woods. There wouldn't be enough food if there was populations of these things.
And we're pretty firmly convinced, or at least I'm pretty firmly convinced, that there is a population of them. I know that they have seen different types of UFOs around different sightings
Yeah.
of what they call Bigfoots. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's all connected somehow.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's so interesting.
The lights,
too.
the UFOs,
Yeah.
and Bigfoot. Yeah.
Like if you get one, you get it all.
yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and the ghosts too. I mean,
Yeah.
okay, let's look at Skinwalker Ranch for a minute, because truth is they have all that going on, all of it and more. I was going to say, I think it's all related.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, watching it on TV, you know what they're doing for TV. They need views, so it's going to be dramatic. I think something weird is going on at Skinwalker Ranch.
Yes.
I just don't know what it
Yes.
is, but it's a mixed bag of paranormal phenomena for sure.
If you've ever done any looking into the Skinwalker Ranch, it was on my radar a decade before it ever hit a TV show. So I've been watching it for a long time.
Yeah,
And there's stuff going on there. I mean, it is a mixed bag. You're right about that. There's so much going on from so many different angles of all different types of paranormal activity, and there always has been. So I don't know what that is, or if they're all just related and we need to deal with it.
Right. Yeah. Like if they come and they bring their friends on like a
Your
night
friends.
out.
Mothman's there, and
Yep, Dogman. You got to get the Dogman in there too.
oh,
Yeah.
the Dogman. Dogman to me sounds like Bigfoot. I'm sorry. Other than the fact that it's described as a big hulking werewolf sort of thing.
So I wonder about that. Because they remind me very much, intuitively speaking, they remind me very much of like Anubis. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if they've been around for a very, very, very long time, just like the Bigfoot. They're just, the rake is another one,
The
they're
rake,
all
yeah.
these,
Yep.
these cryptids, and the fairies for that matter, they come and go too.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, we've touched on fairies a few times here. I
Yeah.
think I want to go. I think I want to take it down this route now.
Okay.
Let's go.
All right. What are the fae?
So and again, I don't know exactly what they are, except that they are here. And I believe that elementals also kind of another blanket phrase for fairies. I believe that they take care of our earth. And what they told me many years ago is that we were both, the fairies and the humans were supposed to be stewards here on this planet. And we developed in a different way. We took a different path and left them holding their bag and our bag. So they take care of the planet is what they do. And they clean up our mess a lot too, which is why they are not always super friendly with us.
Yeah, they don't like us.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, I think.
They ignore us more than anything.
Yeah.
And it's not that they don't like us, because there are people, obviously, that they do like. I've had really great encounters with some fairies. Most of them just go about their job and pay us no attention.
Well, let's hear about one or two of those.
Okay. I had one that I just adored. And you have to understand that fairies are mostly regional creatures.
Okay.
They don't venture away from where they live. So they might be able to go a couple of miles, like a hawk has a certain region that it's able to go and fly around and hunt and nest and so on and so forth. I don't remember what it is. It's like 20-mile radius or something like that. Well, fairies are much the very same way. They don't just go where and when they want to. That's not the way they're built. They have a specific job that they take care of in a specific region. So whenever I met her, and I met her at the barn, she was what they call a sylph, which is for lack of a better term, she reminded me a lot of Tinkerbell. She had wings and you couldn't see her hands or her feet. They were kind of misty, like almost like smoke or steam. She had a very pretty face. I couldn't tell you if she was wearing clothes or not because everything was pretty fuzzy, but she had a very pretty face and a lot of hair. And I don't know if it was in the hair. It looked, like it could have been steam or smoke or something along those lines. But she was so precious to me. She told me so many different things about the fairies and about their relationship with human beings. But she was my favorite. And she was able to come see me at my house because it was only a couple of miles away from the barn. But she was not able to follow whenever I left that area.
So, any specific rules? Anything you have to mind when you're dealing with the fae?
Oh, yes, very definitely. So, my suggestion is to be respectful, mind your manners, also be respectful of the earth. Don't throw trash around. And I've talked about this before on other podcasts, but they hate it whenever you don't remove roadkill from the road.
Really?
Yes, and I've had this conversation with them multiple times over the years, and it's like, I'll stop and do that for you whenever I can, but I don't want to be roadkill too.
I've also heard don't ask for anything.
Never ask for anything. Oh, you know what? That's not true. Sometimes they like to have, what would you call it? A task. My ex-husband had a key ring that was big enough to choke a horse. It was huge. He was a mechanic. So he had lots of cars and he had shop keys and he had barn keys and he had tractor keys and he had car keys, all these keys on one giant key ring. And one day he called me and he was freaking out because he couldn't find his keys. He'd been up to the barn and couldn't find them. And it was like, okay, well, He's like, I don't know if somebody took it or maybe the fairies took it. I don't know. Well, I decided to ask for some help. And I asked the fairies if they could please find those keys and put them someplace that he could, that he would find them. And by golly, it wasn't very long after that he called me and he said, I found them. And I said, where were they? And he said, they're on the fence post, on the gate post. And it blew his mind because the gate post was about 8 feet in the air.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, that is.
So it wasn't likely a human being that found his keys and put them up on that fence post, but somebody did.
Well, unfortunately now I guess he's indebted for life, right? So the stories go.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
I've never experienced that. They've always been very kind to me, and I've always been kind and respectful with them.
Yeah, we're very careful.
Yes.
When we leave offerings, we leave it as just what it is. This is an offering. We don't expect anything in return.
Right. Nope. This is for you guys because I care.
Yeah.
This is
That's right.
with respect to pay reverence to you
Yep.
and this land.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. And to thank you for all of the wonderful things that you do for us because they do.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't always do that, but we learned a little bit
Yeah.
over time. So
Yep. That's awesome, by the way.
What have you seen? Like, have you noticed between daytime and nighttime in the same location? Like, have you noticed differences at those times in the way that, like, you feel the presence?
I think that it is probably more prominent after dark, but maybe that's because I saw more after dark. During the daytime, you could feel them, and I knew that they were around. Sometimes I could hear them, but by and large, they were more active, or at least I noticed them being more active after dark.
Yeah, we've noticed the same.
And Gabrielle might disagree with me here, but when we started all this, you could hear at the very beginning of the podcast, we would always preach and say, it doesn't matter what time of day, what time of night, if there's phenomena around, it shouldn't matter. Like, it's going to happen.
It shouldn't.
Now, here's the part Gabrielle may disagree with me on a little bit. I'm thinking it does matter now. Because nighttime, you have to understand what's happening. Your brain is processing visual data different, right? You're basically, It's dark, you can't see as well.
Yes.
That's when, all of a sudden you're hyper aware of everything going on around you, especially if you're in the middle of the woods. And like you said before, the bugs were driving you nuts in that tent, right?
Right.
I think that whether it's us or the phenomena using that lack of your sensory input, I do believe that actually helps. Now, there's two sides of it. A lot of people say it's hallucinations, right?
Okay.
Your brain, is trying to reproduce what it's seeing. Your visual data is hampered. It's filling in the blanks and it's creating like little mini hallucinations, whatever it may be, right?
Right.
I'm not so sure they are hallucinations. I think that maybe the phenomena uses that to talk to us, to communicate with us. What do you think, Gabrielle?
Yeah, I agree.
That's very, very possible.
Yeah.
The reason that we've always done nighttime investigations is because the IR doesn't work during the daytime.
Right. It's all blown out and white. Yeah.
And there's less interference at night, right? People are quieter. People aren't as busy.
Yes.
So I feel like that helps too with interference.
Yes.
Well, depending on where you go.
Yeah.
That's true. That's a good point.
We've done quite a few public investigations that are loud and noisy and no one's respecting,
That's tough. How do you get through that?
It's tough. It's not easy, especially when you pay a premium price to get into a place for a night and you're stuck with a bunch of teenagers that
have no respect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's a public investigation. You know what you're getting into. It's a flip of a coin. Most of the time it's good, honestly. I can't even say 50-50. Most of the time people are respectful, but
yeah.
Wow. Okay. Right on. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like my cup of tea at all.
Well, I mean, the downside of private investigation is the cost, right?
Yeah.
So we have always been asked to come and do investigations. I don't know if you guys know what the wall is. It's the Missouri State Penitentiary is what they called it.
Mm-hmm.
It has since closed. It's closed since like 2004, but now they're doing If you want to pay $100 a person per night, you can go and investigate that place too. Incredibly haunted. I was the very first person to go and do an investigation at that place. I was kind of their test case.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't have to pay to be there. We came up with all kinds of great stuff, EVPs and orbs. Oh my gosh, the orbs we saw were insane. Lights coming on and off, prison doors closing and opening. It was just a very worthwhile endeavor, but I don't think it would be anymore. Just because they are charging a lot of money for people to go and investigate that place. And that does have a bearing on what's really going on with the energy there.
Oh yeah, absolutely it does.
Yeah, we've heard that. The more that people go and go and go, it kind of like almost ruins it a little bit. Yeah.
It's like caging a ghost and putting them on display. It's not very nice.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's almost like a circus where, you're charging people to come and view them.
I said it before, a paranormal zoo.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So we did that one, and that was a fun one. We got lots of orbs and got some EVPs and blah, blah, blah. But typically we've had the police and the sheriff call us down in Butler and Bates County, Missouri. They've called us a few times to come in and help them out with situations. It's a very haunted area, and it has to do with the Civil War. And after the Civil War, there was what they called Order Number 11. Are you guys familiar with that at all?
I don't think I am, no.
So Order Number 11 was something that Lincoln put into effect just like at the very tail end of the Civil War. And it had to do with the fact that Kansas and Missouri, we had the Jayhawkers and we had the Bushwhackers. So we had the Jayhawkers on the Kansas side, we had the Bushwhackers on the Missouri side. And then the Mason-Dixon line ran right through the middle of that. So you had the North and the South. So you had all these family members who were at each other's throats. And it was a very horrible time for the state of Missouri and Kansas. But he came in with Order Number 11, and he said anybody who is a Southern sympathizer has to leave the area. Don't care how ingrained you are. Don't care what fields or homes or anything. You guys have got 3 hours to get out of here.
Oh, wow.
If you are a Northern sympathizer, then you must do the same thing, but you can go to the closest fort. They burned homes and farmland. They just decimated everything in that area. It was horrible. A lot of people don't realize that happened.
Yeah.
The ghosts remember.
Right.
We have a lot of hauntings down that direction. One night the sheriff call us down there, and he wanted us to come and help this little family who showed up at the police station in the middle of the night. And so they had already started moving out of their house. And by the time we got there, they had cleared everything out of this trailer. And we didn't find a darn thing while we were there. We heard a few shuffles here and there and maybe something in the kitchen when we were in the living room, but we really didn't pick up a whole lot while we were on location. When we got away from that place and started reviewing our audio and video,
Yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah.
Got some of the best EVPs I've ever heard in my life. It was insane.
Yeah, it's very familiar.
Yep.
I love when that happens.
I mean, the other side of it, too, is I love when we do the short recordings that are like only a couple minutes long, and then we listen on site. Because if you get an EVP there, then you're excited the whole time, and it's almost like your energy is building something, you know what I mean? It continues to snowball. But yeah, no, I get it. I love those nights when it doesn't seem like there's a lot going on, and then you're listening to the recording, and you're like, what was that? Was that a voice?
Yep.
Oh,
have done that. That was the only time that we've ever had to that degree. I mean, we probably got 24 incredible EVPs out of just like 3 hours worth of an investigation.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that is wow.
Wow.
We couldn't believe it.
Wow. Any full sentences, or is it just like fragmented words and phrases?
No, it was absolutely full sentences. There was one that was a very straight up get out.
Always.
Right, always. Get out, my place, leave it alone. We also had another one that was, I just don't know how to describe it. It sounded like somebody talking in slow motion
Oh, that's interesting.
and at a lower pitch. So when I got that, I stuck it into Audacity and it was like, okay, let's speed this up and raise the pitch a little bit.
Love
And see
Audacity.
what-
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Audacity is great for that kind of thing.
And it's
And
free. You
so-
can't beat it. So
Yes, and it's free. You're right. So I put it into Audacity and I sped it up and I raised the pitch, and it sounded like they were, the first sentence sounded like they were mocking us. And then the second sentence sounded like they were answering us. Let me see if I can remember what they said. Something about, yes, we're here. And then the second one was, what was it? Dead tonight. And it was so insane. I'll tell you what, the first time we heard it while we were listening to the audio, ooh, the goosebumps went up.
yeah,
I love that feeling.
it's excitement. To me, it's excitement. I'm
Yeah.
never fearful of it. You know what I mean?
Oh, it was creepy, but I wasn't fearful of it.
It's creepy because it's not supposed to be happening. You know what I mean? Like your brain's not wired
Right.
to. Yeah.
Very intense. But yeah, that was fun.
That sounds fun.
So, Jody, something for you. If you're the guy doing the audio edits on this,
Yep.
there have been a couple of my shows in the last couple of months who have had EVPs.
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
That's
if you do let me
interesting.
know. Oh, it surprised all of us, but it was kind of fun. So heads up.
I've noticed I've had that before on phone call audio.
Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I don't know if that has to do with
I have no clue, but it made me giggle.
Makes me think of when me and my friend I think we were in high school, right? We were on the phone one day and we're talking to each other, and all of a sudden we hear this guy on the phone and we're like, what is that? So we start talking to him and he starts talking to us. And then all of a sudden his friend is there too. So like the phone lines crossed with each other. So we're talking to them for like 45 minutes, and then we call the phone company together and we're like, hey, here's the thing. Like, we think there's something going on with our phone line. And they're like, well, what's going on? And they're like, everyone. And then we are all like, hello.
Party line. Oh, that's hilarious. I think the party lines are a thing of the past now.
And it was
Yeah.
before, like, when you could have like a 3-way call. Like, there was no way we could have done that. They just all of a sudden got in there.
That's at the pole though. That would be because that was all analog back then.
Yeah, it was so weird.
Someone was working on the lines and crossed something.
Yeah, it was so
Yep.
weird.
That's wild.
Yeah. So before we go, I'm dying to know who the figure from the horror movie was that you were seeing.
Oh, okay. That was the nun.
I knew
She
it
knew
was
it.
the nun.
Yeah, if you know anything about horror movies nowadays, you could totally read me.
Yes, I was
Yeah.
like, it's the nun. I was saying to him, I was like, she saw the nun.
She's throwing me signs across the table here. She's throwing the
I'm
N.
like spelling nun with my fingers. I'm like, N-U-N. It's the nun.
You nailed it, sister. You absolutely did. Oh, she was horrible. She
Oh my
wanted me
God.
to draw her, and I absolutely refused. I told her to go get,
Yeah.
She could have been a thought form. You know what I mean? Like she could be.
Yeah.
she was potent for being a thought form, I'll
Yeah.
tell you that.
We went maybe 2 years ago now. We went to a like horror movie convention, me and Jody.
Mhm.
And we were walking around for the day, and they have like local scare actors that will come and they'll scare you throughout the day.
Yep.
So I'm getting like hit with like 4 or 5 people like every couple minutes. And I'm like, these people are like really on their game today. And I'm the kind of person, I can't go do like a haunted hayride to a haunted house attraction because I can't understand that person's in costume. Like I just can't. So I get terrified at these things.
Oh,
So these people keep coming up and scaring me, and I have to like maintain my composure. So the nun at one point is like this 7 foot, it's a man dressed as the nun. And he's so tall and he's in my face. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm so uncomfortable. So then at the end of the day, Jody told me he was telling people to come and bother me all day.
that's not nice.
I'm the best.
I'm like, why are they like all over me? Do they know I'm afraid of them?
They did.
Gabrielle, I have totally done that to people so many times. That's not nice.
I'm like,
my
oh,
gosh.
hi, because they were like right in my face. Hi.
That's hilarious.
Colleen, before we tie this up, is there anything else you want to add?
I think I'm going to tell you guys the same thing I said to the last guys, and that was we are living in such a crazy time right now. And personally, I believe that we are in the middle of an evolution, and no growth goes without some type of pain.
It's a paradigm shift, I think.
It is. I feel like it is. My guides have told me that we're evolving, and it's not just us, it's our planet.
Mm-hmm.
And I buy that. I think that that fits pretty well. So my note to everybody is don't feed the beast. Don't be fearful. Don't spend your time in worry. Don't be jealous and angry. Just love deeply, find the beauty in everything. It's going to help you and everybody else in the long run.
Is there any books or websites you want us to plug?
Yes, please. Okay, so if you want to go check out some of my film and theater and special effect work, you can go to ColleenCoffman.com. If you'd like to go check out my paranormal stuff, you can go to therabbithole.club. If you'd like to check out my book, you can find it on either one of those sites or Amazon or any place else that you can find books for sale, or you can go straight to my publisher's site, which is hanger1, publishing.com. Thank you so much. What a great interview, guys. Thank you.
Thanks for having the conversation with us, honestly.
Yeah,
thank
you.
Quite a mixed bag. You have plenty of years of interesting experiences that, that we're able to bring to the podcast.
Love it. Thank you for that.
Colleen, it was so nice talking to you.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Thank you guys so much. Have an incredible day, guys.
You too.
You too.
Thank
you.
You bet. Thank you.
Please visit us at podcastoftheparanormal.com.
You can find links to our social media as well as our contact form if you're interested in being a guest or just wanting to give us some feedback. You can listen wherever you listen to your favorite podcast.
You can listen right on the website if you want. Please go ahead and leave us a like, stars, review. That's how we get our show out there.
Yeah.
It helps us reach more of an audience, brings more people to the show.
And thank you for listening, everyone.
See you next time.